Well, hello again and welcome to the VK6CS Fun with Amateur Radio channel. Now, I'm just going to show you this little power supply I bought today. I went down to Jaycar, bought myself a little power supply just for testing small projects and for testing my cathode bias board. It's a 0 to 24 volt power supply at according to the box, 15 amp. If you're going to buy one of these, be mindful that it says here, if this is going to focus, 24 volts 6 amps, 16 volts 12 amps, 12 volts 15 amps, 5 volts 17 amps, 3 volts 17 amps, 2 volts 10 amps. So saying it's 0 to 24 volt 15 amp power supply I think is a bit cheeky. I mean, if at 24 volts you can only pull 6 amps out of it. So Tursk PowerTech, of course it was a budget, it's a budget device, so it's $150 from Jaycar, so probably shouldn't expect too much from it. It says that its voltage regulation is less than 1%, ripple is less than 9 millivolts peak to peak, rated load. It's got short protection. So basically, for what I want, I think this will be fine. I'd be able to run radios on it without too much trouble. What did it say? DC 16 volts, 12 amps, and 12 volts is 15 amps. So 13.8 volts is halfway between the two, more or less. So if you say, 13 volts, 13.8 volts at 13 amps, 13.5 amps, that's going to be fine. I wouldn't use it to run HF, of course. As you can see, the meters are illuminated. If I turn that off, oh, actually I'll do it there because it's easier to see. I've got a fairly bright light over here. So there it is. Can you see that? And then I'll do that. Probably can't see a difference there, but when it's powered up the meters illuminate. There's a green LED on the front that illuminates, and there's a set volts on here. So I thought, well, I've wanted a little variable voltage power supply for some time, just for playing around with different bits and pieces, and 0 to 24 volts, reasonable amount of current is just what I'm looking for. So as you can see, this is probably not much bigger than a CB radio. Some of these modern CB radios, so you can see how big it is compared with that multimeter there. That's the length of it and the width of it. Compared with a multimeter. So it's very small, and as you can see, I'm holding it in my right hand. It's very light. I can't really feel that I'm holding very much at all. Okay, so I'm just going to see what the voltage indication is like. I know there's no load on it, but it should regulate it anyway. Alright, well, let's go to 10 volts. Okay, so the meter is saying 10 volts, so you can see that. And what does this say? And there is a black line behind that red needle indicating 10 volts. So far so good. There you go, 15 volts. Everything will stay on there. I wonder if you can hear that noise it's making. I certainly wouldn't be using this anywhere near a HF radio. I think would be asking for trouble. But maybe I'll try that and let you know. That's 15 volts. Okay, well, let's just see what that says. And that is on the black line by 15 volts. So far so good. 20 volts, 20 volts, and that's showing, what's that showing? That's 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, that's showing 20 volts. Okay, brilliant. It's up to 20 volts, it's all nice. And there's 24 volts. And what does it look like? Actually, it's not overly linear. It's not overly linear. Just that last bit from 20 to 24 volts just goes a little bit further to the right, that needle, than it probably needs to. But you know, it's a budget power supply, and I'm sure it'll be fine for what I want. Now, remember, this is 0 to 24 volts. You know, different amounts of current there. 12 volts, it's probably good for 13 amps or so. I know people like unboxing videos. Basically, take my word for it, I've just taken it out of that box. What was in the box was the unit in a plastic bag, a mains cable, and that tied around the mains cable. Oh, and the instructions, of course. That's all that was in the box there. So you didn't miss very much by me omitting that part of it. You can probably see my amplifier in the background. I've cleared the tabletop and put the amplifier on the table. And just a very quick thing about the amplifier. I wasn't going to mention the amplifier in this video, but that box there sitting on top of the load capacitor, which is going to go there actually. It won't go in the. This is the power supply area in here. There's going to be a screen between these two verticals. I don't know if you can see the other vertical actually, but there's two verticals there. See, there's one on one side, and one on the other. The screen will bolt. The screen with the transformers and everything will bolt in there, and that load capacitor will be over there, like that. And you can see I've got the PA airbox and the box that it's going to be sitting on, just sitting in the case at the moment. The top of the box forms the bottom of the airbox, and what's going in that box is the cathode bias circuit and the heater, the DC supply for these fans here. When the back panel's on, RF in and out will be here. Probably be a circuit breaker there, the mains going in, and there'll be a 115 mil probably diameter round hole there. The back panel will bolt to the fans, and there'll be a plastic cover that goes on that on the outside, and inside that will be some metal fly screen mesh, which is black, so that will just look like a nice black grill on the back panel where the air is sucked in. Right, that's that. Now I was talking to Al the other day on the Rolling Stone repeater, and he was saying, we were talking about this variable voltage power supply business, and he said that he had one I could borrow, and I said, oh actually, he said it's a bit of a boat anchor, but I thought, wait a minute, I've got one of these old boat anchors. Anyway, I dug out my boat anchor, and remember what this little thing can do, well according to the specifications can do. Let's turn it off. Put that over there, just in case it's feeling like it wants to burst into flames. Oh, with that power supply, sorry, I forgot to mention, you also get a couple of crimp connectors, so you can make your lead up to go on the back. Maybe, presumably a couple of crop clips probably. And here is my old boat anchor. Now, this thing here is considerably heavier. As you can see, it's got handles on the top, and what's in this is two separate power supplies. So there's one here, there's the volts, and there's the current adjust, and there's one here, same thing, mirror image, current and voltage adjust, output for power supply 1, output for power supply number 2. You can run them independently, you can run them in parallel, or you can run them in series. So they're 0 to 35 volt. Believe it or not, this thing that weighs about 4 tons it's only 2 amps per side. So 2 amps from this side, 2 amps from this side. So in parallel, I can have 35 volts at 4 amps, and in series, I can have 70 volts at 2 amps. When I fired it up yesterday, it wasn't tracking properly, and there was a really, there's a smell of hot components, dust burning off of hot components. Where I work, we modernised the workshop with some much nicer, newer variable voltage power supplies a few years back now, and these all went in the skip, or were going in the skip. So I just intercepted this one. But that's the boat anchor I was talking about, Al. So if you watch this video, I did find it and I did fire it up, but it's not very friendly to use. It's not working properly, so that's why I thought I'd go and treat myself to a nice shiny new compact variable voltage power supply. And just as an aside, really, just as an aside, as you happen to be there, I think I might have shown you this before, but this is the amplifier screen. That's the amplifier screen there. That's the thing that's going to be bolted in the amplifier. It'll go that way round, like that, and it goes between those two verticals. There's one on this side, there's one on the other side, so that goes in the top there, and that's bolts either side and along the bottom. And this area here is the power supply for the amplifier. And what's on that is that's the heater transformer for the GS35. That's the little transformer that runs the timer relay, and that's the transformer that runs the RF switching relays. So that's that. And on the other side, cables out of the way. I don't want to nick any insulation anyway. Up there is a 3,300 puff door knob capacitor rated at 10,000 volts. That hole there is where the RF choke is going to protrude, because remember, this side of the screen is going to be in the RF, on the RF side of it, so the RF choke will stick out, and there'll be a little parasitic choke going from the end of that over to the valve anode, the GS35 valve anode, and from there to there will be some 1mm building wire, and the 2,800 volts will come through this grommet and just wrap around that, and that's going to be the HT feed into the PA. So there we go. That's just an aside, as I've cleared the tabletop, as you can see, and I've put the amplifier on the tabletop. I've actually put the feet on it as well. Put the feet on it yesterday as well. So dribs and drabs, it's coming along, and I think I've shown you this load capacitor before. There's the load capacitor, and so I think I measured this at something like 1200 puff, 1200 picofarads. The plate tune capacitor is physically the same size, twice the spacing, because it's only 500 puff. But they're so they'll be bolted one above the other. Plate tune will be bolted on top of this one, and then they'll both go in there like that. So that's how the amplifier is coming along, and as I said, that's a sort of a side really. I just wanted to do a quick thing on the little power supply, because I will be doing the bias board, and I'll use that little power supply just to show you the regulation on the bias board up to whatever voltage that will do, 24 volts, whatever. As I say, in the amplifier it will probably go up to 45 volts, but I'll just use that to get it to the 24 volt point, just to make sure that I can set that bias to what I want it to what I want to set it to. I think on these things I've seen them set from 9 volts or 15 volts or whatever, so even a 24 volt swing will probably be good enough, but the bigger the swing, more range of adjustment there is. It's better to have too much than not enough, isn't it? Any day of the week. Okay, right, well, hope you found that interesting, and I'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching.